All right, guys, welcome to Flav Oriana's MMA show. I'm your host, Flav Oriana, brought to you by Four Corner Sports. All right, guys, so UFC 258 was this past Saturday. No, I didn't have an episode out in about 6 days, but it was time to put something out there. I felt like, there was a lot of people that were talking about UFC 258. Should they pay the $70 to watch it? Should they not? It's Usman headlining the card against Gilbert Burns. Snoozeman. I know a lot of people are like, he's the most boring fighter. Look, that fight that he had against Jorge Masvidal back at UFC 251 on International Fight Week, I totally understand. At that time, the pay-per-views were $65. The regular pay-per-view. Usually it's one pay-per-view per month, but I totally understand why people would have those type of sentiments after him hugging, Jorge Masvidal for 25 minutes. Sure, there was very little action onto it. There was the foot stomps. I know Twitter was going wild that week. There was people, with soda cans out there and just foot stomping everything, making fun of him. And I know Kamaru Usman, did not take light of that. But I was telling people, I was like, look, it's not going to be the same situation that you saw back in July. It's going to be more on the feet. They're going to be striking. I was like, I promise you this guy does not want to be wrestling with Gilbert Burns. And what happens? In the main event for the welterweight title at 170 pounds, Kamaru Usman versus Gilbert Burns. Kamaru Usman did not take not even one takedown. If anything, he got dropped in the first round. And I don't know if I had to tell you guys, but these two used to be sparring partners. These guys were in the same camp, in the same training facility in Miami, Florida. Once Gilbert Burns had made the call out that he wants to challenge for the title, then Kamaru Usman, usually the champion does not change camps. Usually it's a challenger, but Kamaru Usman ends up changing camps. Goes with Trevor Whitman in Colorado. Trevor Whitman is very historically known for being a good striking coach. He is the one that's responsible for how great and in the progression of Justin Gaethje's career. And what's it called? That's that. But getting back into the analysis, look, Gilbert Burns, dropped Kamaru Usman in that first round, and I thought it was very uncharacteristic to see, that mistake. But then again, these guys were sparring partners, and I had a feeling that Burns was going to be very, very aggressive going into the fight. But after that, Usman, recovered. And the biggest mistake after all that is that when Gilbert Burns ended up throwing that high leg kick and he lost his balance, the worst thing he ever did was laid on his back and allowed Kamaru Usman to regain his composure, regain his chin, and allow Usman to kick the back of the legs for what it felt like 45 seconds. After that, everything went downhill. Round 2, Usman, used the jab, was cracking at Gilbert Burns, dropped him in round 2. Usman, if he really wanted to, he could have really, finished the fight in round 2, carried on to round 3, and it was just game over. Usman's jab, he switched over to the left hand, led with the power hand, and he really dominated once he switched stances, went from conventional fighter to southpaw. It was game over from that point forward. Gilbert Burns gets dropped multiple times, and it was lights out from there. Kamaru Usman, successful for the third time defending his belt, breaks the record. He was tied with GSP going into the fight. Now has 13 consecutive, fights that he has won to start his UFC career. And now he's 3 behind from tying the great Anderson Silva. And a lot of people are saying, does he deserve to be in the conversation as greatest welterweight of all time? In just that discussion alone? And I say no. Look, it's not his fault that it took him this long of a time for him to get into getting a title shot. He had a large amount of fights before he even got to have a chance to fight Tyron Woodley. I mean, we're talking about the Leon Edwards that he had fought, the Rafael Dos Anjos, all right? The only one, I mean, in that top 15 that he hasn't fought, or top 10 he hasn't fought, was, what's his name? Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. But I think that it's fair to say that he is surpassed a better welterweight champion than a Robbie Lawler. That he's a better welterweight champion than a Tyron Woodley. You know, is he in the Matt Hughes, Pat Miletich conversation? I don't know. I don't think we're right there yet. Matt Hughes has 9 title fight wins at welterweight. You know, so obviously we know that George St. Pierre is a way better welterweight than Matt Hughes, so can't put him in that conversation right there. But yes, so Kamaru Usman won on UFC 258. I mean, it was no wrestling match. I mean, Burns actually did shoot for a takedown and was unsuccessful. Nobody has yet been able to take down Kamaru Usman. But yeah, guys, I mean, look, Usman was not how his game plan was not like what it was for when he fought Jorge Masvidal. I mean, if he would have had that same game plan, you know, in 251 that he had at 258, I mean, he most likely would have lost. But speaking of Jorge Masvidal, and I gotta say, this guy might be like the biggest winner of UFC 258 outside of Kamaru Usman. Usman got very pissed off that nobody's putting respect on his name. All right, and I highly understand that. And then he calls out Jorge Masvidal because if you're looking on Twitter, Jorge Masvidal and his camp are calling out, Kamaru Usman, saying that, look, we took this fight on 6 days' notice. We broke your nose on 6 days' notice. Imagine what we could do on a full fight camp. Usman was like, you know, we offered this fight numerous times to Masvidal, but he refuses to take the fight. And the only reason why he took it on 6 days' notice is because he had a built-in excuse. So I don't know which party's which. It sounds like, you know, there's partial truth in the fact that, you know, Masvidal has turned down fights, you know, and wanted to take this on 6 days' notice. And then it's partial that, you know, what Usman is saying is not accurate. So I would love to see the rematch. I mean, I want to see what Usman can do in a full fight camp, what Masvidal could do in a full fight camp, knowing they're going to be able to fight each other. Would it be more of the same? Would it be more different? Who knows? But all I can say is that Kamaru Usman, he went from possibly fighting Colby Covington to now jumping the line again and now getting a title shot. He most likely getting a shot at Kamaru Usman. Now going into the co-main event, we had Macie Barber versus Alexa Grasso. I was very surprised to see how Macie Barber, you know, attacked in the third round, and I thought that she was able to do that in the first and second round. But Alexa Grasso has showed why, you know, her boxing is very superior towards Macie Barber. She was fighting at distance, you know, was able to pick her apart for the first 2 rounds. And that's that. I mean, look, Macie Barber, you know, realized that she needed a finish in round 3, and she did everything she could. She went savage mode, but it was not enough. And Alexa Grasso gets the victory. She's by tomorrow, she most likely is going to be inside the top 10 at women's flyweight. I would love personally to see her fight somebody like a Caitlin Chukagian, a Jessica Ai, maybe a Roxanne Modafferi. For Macie Barber, I said it, I would like her to fight the loser between Tracy Cortez and Justine Kish. I think if you run the risk of her running against Tracy Cortez, but you know what? I don't really believe on like slowly easy them in, because these people are fighters. They only have a very limited lifespan in that career span. So why not just get them in the octagon together? So Tracy Cortez and Macie Barber would sound great, but Justine Kish and Macie Barber doesn't sound too bad either. And then we had the Hurricane Ian Heinisch versus Kelvin Gastelum. Kelvin Gastelum, you know, this guy has a chin, guys. Took 2 flying knees, converted those into slamming takedowns. Won, 30-27, 29-28, 29-28. Look, guys, I mean, no, I think it was all 30-27, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong. But Kelvin Gastelum snapped the 3-fight losing streak. You know, he's back on the win column. I would like him to face, Jared Cannonier. I think Jared Cannonier will be an excellent test for Kelvin Gastelum. As for Ian Heinisch, I mean, the only obvious choice would be Brendan Allen. I mean, these 2 guys were scheduled to fight each other twice before. So why not have it now? There's no more of a perfect time. After that, we had Ricky Simon versus Brian Boom Kelleher. Look, a lot of people that I know, have seen Brian Kelleher train. I wanted Brian Kelleher to win, but Ricky Simon is a savage, man. I mean, he's lost to very few people, Uriah Faber and stuff like that, but it just shows that, Ricky Simon is just that dominant of a fighter. I mean, he's more of a wrestler technician. I know he trains with Chael Sonnen, but Ricky Simon, man, I mean, that guy's a problem right there. He is a problem. And lastly, we had Julian Marquez versus Macie Barber. Macie Barber was doing everything right up until round 3, and then Julian Marquez ends up getting the victory, gets a finish, and then he ends up calling out Miley Cyrus, saying that, would Miley Cyrus be his Valentine? Miley Cyrus actually responded back on him on Twitter saying, "You shave an MC on you, I'm yours." So that's what happened. But yeah, guys, that's what happened on UFC 258. I mean, let's see what happens. I mean, we're gonna have Curtis Blaydes versus Derek Lewis this upcoming Saturday, and then UFC have already made the announcement for UFC 259. Obviously, it's gonna be headlined by Adesanya versus Jan Blachowicz, co-main evented by Amanda Nunes versus Megan Anderson. Then you're gonna have Peter Yan versus Aljamain Sterling. You're gonna have Drew Dober versus Islam Makhachev, and then the opener of that pay-per-view is gonna be Thiago Santos versus what's this guy's name? The guy from Serbia. Wow, it is Alexander Rakic. Yes, Alexander Rakic. And this card is so good, guys, that you're gonna have Joseph Benavidez and Askar Askarov in the prelims, along with Sean Brady and Jake Matthews. And the featured prelim is gonna be Dominic Cruz versus Casey Kenny. That's how you know this card is gonna be stacked. But I'm most likely not going to be able to watch it on March 6th, going to Puerto Rico. I'll be able to watch it on March 7th. But until then, guys, look, I will see you guys most likely in a couple of days, all right? Well, we're going to get on the grind more often. Please hit that like and subscribe button and put your comments down in the comment section below, and I will see you guys next time. All right, guys. Peace, guys.